Hi guys, my name is Abdullah Aleem. I'm accompanied by my fellows L, Michelle, Amna, and Daniel. We are from the group 2 of the COIL project, and our topic for today will be gender and environment. Before continuing with the topic, I want to give some insight regarding sustainable development. The 2020 Agenda for Sustainable Development was adopted by all the United Nations member states, and it provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet. There are 17 goals for sustainable development, and our topic is related to goal number 5, which is gender equality. For adaptation to climate change to be effective, it is important to recognize that the impacts of climate change affect different people in different ways. Gender and environment are interconnected and mutually influential on each other. The environment affects women and men differently due to their different roles and responsibilities, access to resources, and social and economic status. At the same time, gender norms and power relations can shape how people interact with the environment and affect environmental outcomes. These differences influence their vulnerability to climate risk as well as their capacity to prepare for and manage the impacts. Women are often at a disadvantage due to norms, tradition, policies that perpetuate gender inequality. Thus, a gender responsive approach is needed. Investment and adaptation must be designed to meet different needs, taking into account people's gender and their social status. A gender responsive approach brings diverse voices to the planning and decision making and recognizes the value of their knowledge. Adaptation to climate change is effective when it is equitable, providing opportunities and benefits for all people. Continue.
So the significance of the relation, women and men often have different experiences with environmental issues. Women are often responsible for collecting water, fuel wood, and other resources, which can be time-consuming and physically demanding. Climate change and environmental degradation can exacerbate these burdens, and women may have to travel further to find resources and face increased health risks due to exposure to smoke and pollution. Their vulnerability is intensified because of their biological constitution, particularly their ability to bear and conceive children. Gender can also affect how resources and decision-making power is done, which can affect how people interact with the environment. For example, women may have less access to land, credit, and technology. In November 2017, the first ever Gender Action Plan was the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change was adopted. This was helping countries achieve gender equality in their national adaptation planning for climate change by promoting equal participation, developing awareness and gender-related skills, monitoring gender issues, budgeting for gender-related work, etc. In order to ensure the country's responsibilities to climate change address the different needs and priorities of women and men.
With regards to the issues faced at a base level, issues such as weak rights to owning land and therefore having a say in how it is handled would affect women, as well as women having less socioeconomic power than men, especially in developing countries, which would restrict them from enforcing environmental policies that may benefit them. Women are more dependent on natural resources than men, and agriculture is the primary employment sector for women in lower and middle income countries. The socially ascribed role of women in these countries to provide water and food precludes the opportunity for women and girls to devote time to different areas. Hence, women therefore face the effects of the climate crisis more. This has led to the United Nations noting that women must work harder to earn income and resources. A real-world example of this is the floods in South Sudan in 2020, with temperatures increasing 2.5 times faster than the global average. Sudan is one of the top 5 countries vulnerable to climate change. Huge floods in the country forced women to cross rivers in order to access food and healthcare. Even pregnant women heading for a doctor ended up giving birth in the river and losing their children. Another real-world example can be Pakistan, where according to the United Nations Population Fund, as of November 10, more than 400,000 women are currently pregnant in the flood-affected regions of this country, with another 136,000 women expected to give birth in the next 3 months.
Okay, continuing with Michelle, as for the remedies, honestly, it's like putting women in higher ranking positions, putting more funding, research, having budgets. But again, all of these points are stuck when it comes to budgeting your country. For example, let's take the example of Pakistan real quick, as we're short of time. So we generate all of our income from outsiders, just like foreigners and everything. And apart from that, we do give 51% of the budget to the army. And then here we are talking about all these gender rights and everything. So just coming to the point again, giving women higher ranking positions, funding, research, budgets, all depends upon how the system works, how the check and balances work, biodiversity conservations, promote greater understanding and consideration of different gender roles. Again, gender roles has to be revised in all of our scenarios here, because honestly, I think there's a lack of education, knowledge management, narrow gender gaps by providing tools and resources like the gender toolkit, access to finance, gender equality outreach, all come to the point that budgeting has to be done properly, ensuring research, check and balance is provided, just like Pakistan was currently going through the flood areas and everything. So basically, women have been dying to give birth, but again, we lack resources. People are not bound to be accountable to the right authorities. Again, all of this has to be put into place once we think we'll have been reporting to the right authorities and the right system. I think I will now forward this whole conversation to the last participant here.
So we'll be talking about the Paris Agreement 2016 and its emphasis on gender roles in the environment, if there is any. So initially, the Paris Agreement is a legally binding agreement between 196 parties of the UN in a way to conserve global warming to 2 degrees, if not 1.5 degrees, because it's currently on track for 2.5, if not 3. And in order for first world countries to help developing economies, they've contributed direct finance, more technologies, and shared their knowledge of sustainable infrastructure to said countries. Now, going on to if there's anything mentioned about gender in the Paris Agreement, directly not, but women did contribute to the development of the Paris Agreement. And it's quite a shame that it doesn't mention any women, doesn't mention the predominance of gender roles on the environment, because we could argue that women in higher positions of power will be able to influence decisions made at the top, as it's well known that on FTSE 350 companies, women only represent around 1/3 of all companies. And yeah, if we were able to finish that, please.
Well, that's all, I guess. And thanks a lot.